Discover the incredible journey. Shy Billionaire's Maid transforms his life at sister's wedding. In the sun-soaked town of Maple Grove, the world outside James's opulent estate sparkled with life. But within those grand walls, shadows loomed, stretching long from the burdens of fortune. James, a 32-year-old billionaire, felt like a prisoner in his gilded cage. Day after day, he wandered through echoing halls, surrounded by priceless art and lavish furnishings, yet wrapped in an overwhelming solitude. The constant hum of expectations from his family only deepened his isolation. That morning, as he watched workers prepare for his sister Sarah's extravagant wedding, he felt the heavy weight of their family legacy, one he was hesitant to carry. Sarah was about to marry her sweetheart. To her, the day should be filled with love and family, not the suffocating grandeur that everyone insisted upon. She yearned for simplicity, but the clamor around her drowned her wishes in a sea of silk and splendor. When Clara, a hard-working maid from the nearby working-class neighborhood, arrived for her first day, James couldn't shake the feeling that their two worlds would clash. Clara was bright-eyed, with dreams not of wealth but of stability for her younger brother. She represented resilience, the heartbeat of many Americans fighting for something better. Their eyes met amidst the chaos of wedding preparations, and in that heartbeat, a connection sparked. Clara admired a local war veteran, a man James also respected. They exchanged stories, laughter spilling into the air, dissolving the invisible walls built around James's heart. With each shared moment, hope ignited in the emptiness he felt. He found comfort in her unwavering spirit, realizing how he had sheltered himself from life's simple joys. They connected on a level he hadn't known he craved, and the realization left him breathless. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the wedding day dawned, an unexpected scandal erupted, sending waves of tension rippling through the estate. Whispers and gasps followed as James faced a choice. Should he uphold the facade of wealth or abandon it for something real? Clara's fierce determination challenged him to confront the privilege he'd never realized isolated him. In the chaos of the wedding, he felt the palpable tug between duty and desire, longing and love. Could he shed the weight of his family's expectations and step into a new light? The questions hung heavy as the day unfolded, with every moment amplifying the emotional stakes. Just as laughter and joy filled the air, dark clouds loomed overhead, foreshadowing a storm that could unravel the very fabric of both families. As he looked at Clara, could he find the courage to embrace possibility, to redefine what truly mattered? The tension thickened, and with it, the promise of transformation hung in the air like electricity, waiting to ignite the spark of change. As the wedding progressed, laughter echoed against the elegant marble walls. The garden was alive with blooming flowers and shimmering fairy lights, a dream come to life for Sarah. Yet beneath the surface, an undercurrent of anxiety coursed through James. He felt the weight of his last conversation with Clara, her words swirling in his mind, "Real happiness comes from being genuine with ourselves." He watched as Sarah danced with her new husband, her face radiant with love and joy. At that moment, James wanted nothing more than to feel that connection, too. But the heaviness in his chest reminded him of all he had to lose. Would he be that man who let the love of his life slip through his fingers again? Glancing around the room, he caught sight of Clara, expertly moving through the crowd, smoothing out imperfections and ensuring everything remained flawless. In her hands, she held a small bouquet of freshly picked wildflowers she'd brought from home, vibrant and real, contrasting sharply with the manufactured beauty surrounding them. She caught his eye, and for a moment, it felt like the world melted away. "James, can you come help us?" Sarah's voice pierced through his reverie. He turned just in time to see her struggling with her dress. "Oh, why does this thing have so many layers?" she added with a laugh. With a warm smile, he moved to assist her, briefly allowing his thoughts about Clara to settle. "It's like a cake, Sarah. Layers and layers." He chuckled at the chaos, feeling a warm glow fill him momentarily, a flicker of the bond they shared as siblings. As they maneuvered through the intricacies of her gown, James's gaze drifted back to Clara. She was now at the edge of the dance floor, laughing with a group of guests, her joy radiating like sunshine. He wanted her near him. When the music changed to a slow melody, James took a deep breath and approached Clara, his heart pounding loudly. "Would you like to dance?" he asked, an unfamiliar warmth flooding his voice, a softness he had never shown anyone before. She looked surprised, her eyes wide as she searched his face for sincerity. Clara stepped forward, sliding her hand into his. "I'd love to," she said, her smile brightening with unexpected delight. As they swayed to the music, the world melted into a blur. Time ceased to exist. Their laughter mingled with the melody surrounding them, and James found solace in her embrace. It felt so right, yet so wrong. He was a wealthy man, and she was the help. But every twirl and glide across the floor drew him deeper into the realization that what he felt for Clara was more than just admiration. It was real. She was real. The barriers surrounding their lives, money, status, expectations, felt trivial compared to the emotions surging through him. But the spell was suddenly broken when James's mother appeared, her expression a mix of horror and disbelief. "James! What are you doing? This isn't appropriate." Her voice cut through the music, sharp and unyielding, dragging him back to reality. Clara's face fell, and in that moment, he saw the light dim in her eyes. He opened his mouth to speak, to defend what was happening between them, but the words caught in his throat as he faced the disapproving gazes of his family. What would he do next? Would he allow fear to dictate his happiness, or would he stand up for the connection he felt? As tension wrapped itself around them, his heart raced in uncertainty. How could he possibly choose between family loyalty and the chance at real love? Just as doubt began creeping back in, he realized the decision was impossible to ignore. James took a step back, glancing at Clara, who was trying to mask her disappointment. He knew he reached a turning point. In that pulsating moment, a fire lit inside him, blazing with the importance of truth even if it cost him everything he thought mattered. And with a determination he hadn't felt before, he wondered what would happen if he chose love. Would he be brave enough to fight against the tide? Would he stand up to his family for Clara? As Sarah spun around in her dreamlike wedding, oblivious to the tempest brewing in her brother's heart, James took a breath. As realities converged around him, he felt the weight of his choice materializing just beyond the horizon. What happened next would change the course of his life forever. James held Clara's gaze for a moment longer, and in that silence, he heard 1,000 unspoken words. His mother's voice hung heavily in the air, a buzz of worry and disapproval. The party around them felt distant, like the echo of laughter from another world, while his own heart raced, threatening to break free. "James, I need to talk to you now," his mother insisted, her tone unyielding as she pulled him aside. He felt the distance between him and Clara sharpen as they broke apart. The joyful laughter of the wedding faded into the background, replaced by the tension that crackled in the air. "Don't you dare embarrass our family like this," his mother hissed, her eyes narrowing. "You know how people will talk. You can't just throw everything away for a fleeting moment of fun." He wanted to scream, to defend what they shared. Instead, he clenched his fists, feeling the heat rush to his face. "Mom, it's not just fun. Clara is the help," she interrupted, her voice rising. "You know this is unacceptable. You have responsibilities, James. You're a Fitzgerald." The weight of her words felt like boulders on his chest. Responsibilities. Expectations. He looked over his shoulder at Clara, who stood apart now, her expression a mixture of hurt and confusion. What did it matter, he thought, if their love was unexpected? Wasn't it worth fighting for? He turned back to his mother, taking a deep breath to harness his inner strength. And what if I don't want to be the Fitzgerald who does everything by the book? What if I want to be myself, to follow my heart? His mother's expression softened for an instant, surprise flickering across her face. But it quickly hardened again. Your heart? You think this is love? You're making a mistake, James. I raised you better. But what she didn't understand was that he was finally starting to see the truth. Real love didn't care about wealth or status. It didn't hide behind family expectations. It thrived in honesty, in respect, and in shared moments that made life beautiful. Clara was something he couldn't ignore. I know what I feel, he replied, his voice steady. I want to let you dictate who I can and cannot love. As he made his stand, the air around him shifted. A few guests nearby paused, glancing their way, a mixture of curiosity and concern painting their faces. But there was an undeniable heat building within him, fueled by the certainty that he deserved a life filled with love, not dictated by what was expected. Yet the voice of doubt coiled itself around him. Was it truly worth risking everything to pursue this path? Suddenly, the strains of music shifted again, and Sarah spun into view, her laughter infectious, drawing the attention back to the celebration. Come on, James. Come dance. She called, her joy pulling him like a magnet. His eyes darted back to Clara, who was still standing alone, uncertainty written across her features. She looked so small in the crowd, and he felt his heart thud. If he didn't act, this moment would slip through his fingers. Without another thought, he broke away from his mother and made his way back to Clara, pushing through the crowd with determination. The music, the laughter, everything else faded into a mere backdrop as he focused on her. Clara, he said breathlessly when he reached her. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to let the moment slip away. Would you let me fight for this? For us? Her eyes widened, the shimmer of hope mingling with caution. James, what about your family? Forget about them. What do you want? He asked, urgency threading through his words. What do you want me to do? For a moment, she looked unsure, glancing over his shoulder toward the disapproving glare of his mother. Then, very softly, she replied, I want you to be true to yourself. I want you to choose happiness. At that moment, he saw her walls crumbling, and it emboldened him. Then let us go. I want you with me, he declared, his heart racing with every syllable. He held out his hand. Let us leave the expectations behind. Dance with me. Just us. Clara hesitated, but there was a glimmer in her eyes, a spark of something they both shared. She took a step closer, her fingers brushing against his palm, and he felt electricity course through him. Wouldn't he this time be different? As he held her gaze, James's mind raced with possibilities of where this leap could lead. But just as he was about to pull her into a private world of their own, he felt a solid grip on his shoulder. He turned sharply to find his mother standing beside him, fury etched across her face. You can't just run away with her. You need to think about your future, your family. A swell of emotions surged in him. Did he really have the strength to push back against everything he had ever known? His heart hammered, uncertainty creeping back as he faced the reality once again. Mom, this is my life, he insisted, glancing at Clara, who looked as anxious as he felt. And I'm going to live it on my own terms. The music swelled around them, but beneath the cacophony, he knew a storm was brewing, a confrontation that could change everything. As the crowd buzzed around, the moment hung heavy in the air between them all, crackling with tension and unresolved feelings. James's breath caught in his throat as he steeled himself for what was to come. Would he fight for Clara, even if it meant losing everything? Would he risk it all for a love that felt so real? The choice loomed closer, the weight of his decision pressing down against him. He had to act. But how far was he willing to go? As he took a deep breath, he knew that the next steps could redefine his destiny. James felt the weight of his mother's gaze burning into him, like a spotlight on a stage where he was unsure of his lines. Beside him, Clara was searching his face for answers, and he realized that the moment had come to either step into the light or fade into the shadows. "Mom, you're right about one thing," he said, his voice steadying. "This is my life. But you don't get to choose who I love." He could see her frustration boiling just beneath the surface, but he didn't care. He had to break free from her shadow, from the suffocating expectations that loomed over him like dark clouds. He turned back to Clara, searching for a flicker of hope in her eyes. "Let us dance." With an almost imperceptible nod, Clara stepped closer. He could feel the crowd's eyes on them, whispers fluttering like nervous butterflies, but in that moment, all that mattered was her. As he pulled Clara into his arms, the music shifted to a softer melody, and for a brief moment, it was just the two of them in the world. Holding her felt like a lifeline, grounding him amidst the chaos. He could feel her heart thumping in sync with his, and as they swayed together, he closed his eyes, allowing himself to forget everything outside of this embrace. "James, what if they don't understand?" Clara whispered, unease creeping back into her voice. "Then we'll show them. Love isn't something to be hidden or ashamed of. It's something to celebrate," he replied, the words bursting from his heart. Their steps melded into a rhythm, and for a moment, the world faded away, his mother's disapproving stare, the distant laughter of the guests, the weight of expectations. Just the two of them, breathing together. He brushed Clara's hair behind her ear, and she tilted her head back slightly, the glow of the string lights above reflecting in her eyes. But the magic was short-lived. "James." His mother's furious tone cut through the music like a knife. "Enough of this nonsense." The blissful bubble they had created shattered around him. Clara stiffened, and the warmth of their moment evaporated in an instant. James turned to face the tidal wave of his mother's anger. "Mom, why can't you see how much she means to me?" he demanded, his voice rising above the music. "Because she is not one of us. You're throwing your life away for a girl from the wrong side of the tracks," she spat, her voice dripping with disdain. "What kind of future can you have with her?" The word stung, each accusation a reminder of the very world he was trying to escape. "The kind of future I want. A happy one. A real one. Is that what you want?" She shot back, pushing ever forward into hostile territory. "To be a laughingstock? To be estranged from your family?" James's heart sank. Shadows loomed larger as the truth hung before him, demanding an answer. Would he choose Clara or his family? Feeling Clara's hand tremble in his, he looked into her eyes. The uncertainty deepened, and in that moment, he could see her walls climbing back up. Racked with emotion, he took a deep breath, grounding himself once more. "You don't have to choose right now," he told Clara, his heart racing. "Think about what we can build together. But I can't let them dictate my happiness." The crowd was buzzing, uncertainty swirling, but he wasn't sure who or what would define his happiness anymore. He had to make a choice. Not just for him, but for Clara, too. As tension thickened the air around them like fog, one question echoed: how far was he willing to go to defend the love that felt so effortless, yet so forbidden? For a fleeting second, joy mingled with fear, the stakes climbing higher as the music pulsed into a breathtaking crescendo. He found himself faced with a crossroads that could irrevocably change everything. Would he let go of everything he held, risking the love they had yet to fully explore? James stood frozen, Clara's hand warm in his, their hearts racing as they faced the storm brewing around them. The whispers grew louder, churning his stomach, each word feeling like a stone thrown into their little world. He had been ready to challenge the status quo, but with his mother's accusations hanging heavy in the air, uncertainty seeped into his resolve. "I'm not ashamed of you," James whispered, just loud enough for Clara to hear over the gathering chaos. He could see in her eyes that doubt had crept in, twisting her expression into a mix of worry and confusion. He needed to reassure her, to pull her back from the edge. "Let us step outside," he suggested, breaking their gaze from the crowd, trying to find a safe space away from prying eyes and unkind words. Clara hesitated, looking back towards the crowd, but James squeezed her hand gently, a silent promise that everything would be okay. A nod from Clara was all the encouragement he needed. Together, they slipped away from the dance floor, navigating through the sea of guests, avoiding searching glances and muffled whispers. Once outside, the crisp air was a refreshing contrast to the stifling tension inside. The stars sparkled overhead, twinkling like points of hope in the dark sky. James inhaled deeply, grounding himself as he let the silence envelop them. "Why are people so cruel?" Clara finally asked, her voice breaking the silence. Her frustration was palpable, a reflection of her heart. "I just want to be accepted." "Me too," James replied. "But we can't control what others think. All we can do is be true to ourselves." He reached for her cheek, brushing his thumb along her skin. "You're not just from the wrong side to me. You're Clara. The person who makes me laugh and feel alive. You matter to me." Tears brimmed in Clara's eyes, yet amid the struggle, a flicker of hope lit her expression. "I want this. I want us," she confessed. "But I'm scared." James's heart twisted. He had battled his fears, too, wrestling with the belief that love was something worth fighting for. "Then let us fight together," he said fiercely. "I won't let anyone tear us apart." The connection between them sparked, igniting energy with every word they exchanged. At that moment, standing beneath the stars, he realized that love wasn't just a beautiful fairy tale, it was the war they were willing to wage together. But that knowledge brought its own challenge. Would they truly be prepared to face the battles ahead, or would the world's opinions crush their budding romance? A tentative silence fell between them, both contemplating the road ahead. When James glanced back towards the entrance, a familiar figure emerged from the crowd. His mother, eyes like piercing ice, traversed the distance with purpose. "James," she called out, a commanding voice that echoed through the night sky, laced with the authority of 1,000 unmet expectations. Each step she took sent thuds through James's chest, a reminder that the fight was still not over. Clara clutched his hand tighter, feeling the tension between them. James felt the swell of fear mix with determination. They were standing at the edge of a cliff, looking down into uncertainty. But if they jumped together, what could they discover? Clara's voice trembled ever so slightly, and he could feel her anxiety rising. As his mother approached, he turned to Clara, ready to face the fury of the woman who had always dictated his life. "Whatever happens," he said, "I choose you." The weight of those words hung between them like a promise, exhilarating and terrifying all at once. Now, as his mother stood before them, which path would he take into the unknown? Could love truly conquer the disapproval of a family that had shaped him? The moment had come, but perhaps it was only the beginning. "James," his mother said sharply, her voice cutting through the night. She stood before them, a force of nature wrapped in silk and disdain. The light from the moon reflected off her polished demeanor, framing her as an unyielding wall. "Mom, this isn't what you think," James started, feeling the weight of Clara's hand in his, grounding him even as nerves danced in his stomach. "Oh, but it is," she interrupted, her tone icy. "You think you can just walk away from everything I've built, from the life you've been given? And for what? A girl who doesn't belong here? A girl from the wrong side of town?" Clara flinched beside him, and James could see the shadows of hurt rekindled in her eyes. "Mom, Clara is amazing. She's smart, passionate, and she makes you what?" His mother snapped. Happy? You think happiness is going to pay the bills? You think this fairy tale ends well? James felt an urge to shout, to defend Clara fiercely against the scoffing disapproval dancing in his mother's gaze. Instead, he took a deep breath, trying to keep his voice steady. No one is saying life is easy, but that doesn't mean I can't choose who I want to be with. I love her. Silence settled heavily around them. His mother's eyes narrowed, and for a moment, impossibly, he saw a flicker of something softer, perhaps fear or sorrow. But it vanished quickly, replaced by a cold resolve. Love? She tilted her head with a mocking sincerity. What do you know about love? You're still a child trying to find yourself. You have your entire future ahead of you, and you're willing to throw it away for someone who doesn't fit into our world? James's chest tightened. How could she say that? You think love is about fitting into boxes? It's not. Love is messy and complicated. It's connection and truth. It's Clara. The resolve behind his own words took him by surprise, but in that instant, he knew he would fight. He would fight for their love, even if it meant standing against the woman who had always been his beacon. Clara took a step forward, her voice trembling yet firm. I'm not trying to disrupt anything. I'm just trying to be myself, and I would never ask James to choose between his family and me. But I can't hide who I am either. His mother shot her a scornful look. You don't understand the stakes, do you? Family, reputation, what will people think? Enough! James shouted, finally releasing the pent-up frustration. It's not about them. It's about us. I want to let you dictate my happiness. Not anymore. The words lingered in the air, sharp and undeniable. Clara glanced at him, a mixture of surprise and admiration flickering across her face. I want to stand here and let you tear us apart, James continued, his heart racing, feeling the weight of his own truth for perhaps the first time. I will create my own future, and I want Clara to be a part of it. His mother's expression shifted, anger and surprise colliding within her. James, she said, her voice softer now but still tinged with authority, you need to think about this. I've thought about it, he insisted. This isn't just a phase. I don't need your approval if it means sacrificing who I am. The air hung heavy with the tension of two worlds colliding. The whispers from the party faded into the background. It was just them now, one tangled in love and the other bound by expectations. With Clara beside him, James finally felt the pulse of hope coursing through him. There was a path ahead, uncharted and daunting, but it was theirs. But as his mother opened her mouth to respond, something sharp and tentative crackled in the air. What would be her next move? Would she fight to keep him close, or would she let him go? James and Clara shared a glance that spoke volumes. In that moment, they both knew this was only the beginning of a much larger battle. What would it take to forge their own destiny against the currents of family and tradition? The moment hung there, suspended like a breath waiting to be released. James felt the weight of Clara's hand in his, a tether to the reality he wanted to embrace. His mother's lips pressed together, forming a thin line that mirrored her rigid resolve. Think about it, James, she said coldly. Do you truly believe that you can just waltz away from the life that your father and I built for you? This is a foolish infatuation. Clara's grip tightened around his hand, and he could sense her breathing quicken. The fear emanating from her was palpable. How could they explain this to someone who saw love as a business transaction rather than a shared journey? Mom, this isn't just a fling, James urged, his voice trembling slightly with the force of his emotions. We're not kids playing house. Clara has shown me things about myself that I never knew existed. I can't just turn my back on that. At that moment, the clamor of the party behind them faded into a dull murmur, as if the world outside their charged bubble ceased to exist. His mother's carefully curated facade began to crack, revealing desperation behind her steely demeanor. James, please, she said, almost pleading, you don't know what it's like. The sacrifices I've made, the reputation I've upheld. Think of your future, and consider what will happen if you pursue this." James felt a stirring of guilt, as if he were the reason for her heartache. But he knew better now. The person who stood before him wasn't simply his mother, she was a woman burdened by expectations, trapped in a world of predetermined paths. "Why can't I have both?" he asked softly, his voice trembling with frustration. "Why can't I find success and be with Clara? She is what makes me happy. She is not an outsider. She is everything I've ever wanted." The fight was palpable now, crackling in the air like static electricity. Clara's eyes glimmered, an acknowledgement of their shared fear. They were standing on a precipice. His mother's anger flared back to life. "You think happiness comes without consequences? That you can just ignore the expectations everyone has for you? You're naive, James." Naive? James could feel his pulse thunder in his ears. "I might be young, but I'm not naive. I've seen what it's like to be yourself, even in the face of judgment. What's naive is pretending to be someone you're not just to fit into a mold." The silence that followed was thick, a standoff between love and tradition. James braced himself, hoping that this was the moment for breakthrough, for change. Then his mother stepped back, her eyes glittering with unshed tears. "What if you fail?" she asked, firm yet tremulous. "What if this all goes up in flames?" "Then at least I'll know I tried," he replied with quiet certainty. "I'd rather take that risk than live a life full of regrets." A flicker of something, could it be understanding? Passed over his mother's face, but it was gone in an instant. She let out a humorless laugh, shaking her head. "You think this will end well? You think love will carry you through life's messiness?" "It might just be enough," James replied, holding Clara's hand firmly. "And it's mine to discover." Just then, a commotion stirred nearby, voices rising like a tide. James turned slightly, drawn by the shift. The party hadn't paused, it continued around them, a world living and breathing, oblivious to their conflict. "Who do you choose?" his mother asked suddenly, her voice low, filled with an emotion he couldn't quite define. James glanced at Clara, meeting her hopeful gaze. "I choose us," he declared, confidence building in his chest. But even as the words left his mouth, he felt a tingle of doubt. What would that choice mean? What cracks would it create? Would they lose more than they gained? And as he turned back to face his mother, he recognized the battle was far from over. Would she really let him walk away, or would she fight to pull him back into her world? His heart raced as he considered the unknown. Their future was a blank canvas, and the brush was in his hands. But what colors would he choose to paint with? The answer lingered, just beyond his grasp. The tension hung thick in the air, wrapping around James like a dense fog. In the heartbeat that followed his declaration, he felt the weight of his mother's stare, piercing, unyielding. Clara shifted beside him, her fingers still intertwined with his, but he could sense her apprehension. What if this moment didn't turn out the way they hoped? "James," his mother said, her voice softer now but laced with urgency, "you think you understand the world? You're looking at this through the lens of a child. Love it's complicated. You have no idea what sacrifices lie ahead." He took a breath, grounding himself in their reality, brave enough to speak truths he understood deep within. "Mom, love is complex, but it's also real. Clara is real. I know what I feel for her, and it isn't something I can just snuff out because it's inconvenient for you." The words hung between them, heavy and defiant. Around them, the party roared back to life, laughter spilling from drinks and delicate music playing softly, a whirlpool of contrasting emotions swirling around James and Clara. "Look at everyone," his mother continued, gesturing toward the crowd with a harsh gesture. "They live by certain rules. Expectations. You don't get to just throw it all away because you had some wild idea of love." James felt his jaw tighten. You don't get it, do you? This isn't about neglecting family or reputation. It's about choosing to live authentically. It's about breaking free from those chains you've carried. Clara squeezed his hand tighter, a silent show of support. He glanced at her, and his heart swelled. There was strength in her quiet presence, a grace that soothed the tempest inside him. Do you think you're so strong? His mother asked, raising an eyebrow in disbelief. What happens when love isn't enough? When life hits you with reality? James felt a surge of anger mixed with fear. What if she was right? Yet he couldn't let that fear drown him. I'll figure it out, Mom. Isn't that what life is about? Learning and growing, falling and standing back up. I know it won't all be easy, but I'd rather experience the struggle with Clara by my side than live a life devoid of love. His mother's expression faltered, vulnerability creeping in as she wrestled with his determination. You have no idea what heartbreak feels like. It can be devastating. I know that, James replied, his voice softening. But the possibility of joy is worth the risk of heartbreak. I can't pretend anymore. The crowd erupted into cheers, almost mocking him with their celebratory demeanor. James felt that burning desire to escape this room, yet he was anchored by the truth he had laid bare. Did she truly understand the burden he was carrying? Slowly, his mother blinked back tears, fighting against the wave of emotions she had kept tightly controlled. James, she began, her voice softer, I just want you to be happy. I want to be happy too, Mom, he said, emotions swirling in his throat. But it can't come at the expense of who I am. I love Clara. I choose her. That's what I want. The air cracked as silence fell. Suddenly, another voice broke through someone from the party, a friend of James's father. Hey, James. Come join us. The call snapped his mother back into her steely demeanor, and the moment dissolved like sugar in water. James felt a pit in his stomach. Would she really detach from him now, just like that? Go, she said, her tone curt. If this is the path you want, then go and see where it leads. James looked at Clara, uncertainty clouding his heart. He set his jaw, realizing that the real journey was just beginning. Are you with me? He asked Clara, the question heavy with meaning. With a tender smile, Clara nodded. Always. As they turned to join the thrumming crowd, a thought lingered in James's mind, what awaited them on this path? Would they find love, or a battle against the past? The night still held secrets, and he was ready to uncover them. But what if their choices brought more than they bargained for? James and Clara stepped into the rhythm of the party, the music surging, a stark contrast to the quiet storm brewing inside him. Every sound around them felt amplified, the laughter, the chatter, the clinking of glasses, as if the world was eager to drown out their moment of vulnerability. He could feel Clara's hand warm in his, grounding him through the chaos. You okay? She asked, her voice barely audible over the noise. Yeah, he replied, though his heart raced with uncertainty. The cheers of celebration seemed like a cruel reminder that, outside this intimate fight, life rolled on effortlessly. Just a lot to take in. As they moved through the crowd, mingling faces greeted him like fleeting shadows. They didn't see the panic in his eyes. They were caught up in their own stories, oblivious to the gravity of what he just confessed. Let us get some fresh air, Clara suggested, her expression softening. He nodded, grateful for the escape. They slipped out onto the patio, the cool night breeze wrapping around them like a comforting embrace. Clara hesitated, biting her lip. You really meant what you said to your mom? I did, he responded, leaning against the porch railing. But I worry about the consequences. I don't want to hurt her, but I can't go back to pretending. Clara stepped closer, bridging the gap between them, her eyes reflecting the stars above. You're strong, stronger than you think. Standing up for what you want, that's not easy. James released a shaky breath, letting the tension ease in his shoulders. And I have you by my side. That helps, more than you know. A moment of silence enveloped them, their hearts synced as they both contemplated the weight of their decisions. What happens now? Clara broke the stillness. I guess we figure it out together, he said, a flicker of confidence igniting within him. I'm ready to take on whatever comes our way. Clara smiled, a bright light piercing through his doubts. Then that's all that matters. Just then, a loud burst of laughter erupted from inside, cutting through their intimate moment. The door swung open, and a pair of familiar faces emerged: James's older sister, Sarah, and her husband, Lucas. Both were tipsy, their laughter contagious. Hey! You two lovebirds look too serious out here. Sarah called, a playful grin spreading across her face. James felt his stomach clench. Did they overhear anything? But he smiled back, a veneer of normalcy enveloping him. Just getting some air, he said, forcing the casualness in his voice. Join us. The games are starting. Lucas added, enthusiasm bubbling over. I'd wager the pair of you will lose terribly. Clara rolled her eyes playfully, trying to lighten the mood. Oh, you're on. Prepare to be crushed. Game on. Sarah chimed, tugging Clara back inside. James followed closely, his mind still racing. Was he truly ready to face whatever game life had laid out for them tonight? The voices mingled into a blur, and as they rejoined the crowd, he felt a glimmer of hope. For every step deeper they took into this vibrant atmosphere, they were leaving behind doubts and fears, forging their own path. As the games began, laughter ringed in the air, and for a moment, the night felt bright. But the celebratory glow of the room was interrupted when an unexpected figure ambled through the entrance. James's heart sank. It was his father, looking for all the world like a storm cloud looming over the party. James. His father's voice thundered above the music, a clear signal that a confrontation was imminent. In that instant, James felt everything freeze, the laughter and cheers fading into silence. Would his father understand? Would he support his decision or simply amplify his mother's fears? James braced himself, knowing that whatever came next would challenge the strength of the new path he and Clara had just begun to tread. The world around James seemed to freeze as he faced his father, the towering figure that had always cast a long shadow in his life. In that moment, the laughter from the party fell away, leaving only the sharp, throbbing sound of his heartbeat in his ears. Clara stood beside him, her fingers clutching his with a strength that surprised him, a buoy against the tide of anxiety threatening to overwhelm him. "Dad," James said, his voice steadying through sheer force of will. "What are you doing here?" His father's expression was a mix of anger and confusion, distorted by the dim lighting of the party. "I came to see how my son is celebrating his sister's wedding." But this, he gestured towards Clara, frustration tearing at his features. "This is not the occasion for scandal." James squeezed Clara's hand tighter, determination swirling within him. "Dad, this isn't a scandal. This is who I am. Clara is not just someone I can dismiss because it doesn't fit your vision." James's father stepped forward, the atmosphere heavy with tension. "You think love conquers all? You think you can simply throw away your future for someone who doesn't belong in our world?" Clara breathed in sharply, and James felt her tension spiral anew as he held her gaze. "No, Dad," he said, forcing the words out despite the coldness in his chest. "It's not about throwing anything away. It's about choosing to live authentically. I want to be with Clara because she makes me happy, and happiness is worth fighting for." Silence loomed between them, and the urge to flee clawed at James's insides. The crowd buzzed with life behind them, but here, at this precipice of confrontation, everything felt fragile. His father's face softened, then hardened again like a shield. "You are both young and naive. You'll find yourself lost without direction. Or I'll find a life I love, James countered, his heart racing. You have always taught me that success is more than just money. Clara embodies this. She's grounded, honest, everything I've been searching for. The crack in his father's armor was a flicker too fast to grasp, but it was there a hint of vulnerability, maybe even a recognition of the truth rumbled beneath their words. James hoped it would translate into something more. You think I don't want you to be happy? His father asked, his voice quieting, reminiscent almost of affection. But happiness comes with stability. With building a future that is certain and secure. It's about legacy. And what about my happiness? James asked, his voice rising again. What good is a legacy if I'm not part of it? My happiness matters, too. It's time for me to carve a place in this world that doesn't merely follow tradition. As the words echoed, the intensity of his conviction felt electric, pulsating between them. Clara's eyes sparkled with hope, an encouragement that he could feel bolstering his resolve. James, his father said, lifelessness creeping back into his tone. You're playing with fire. You don't know the pain that comes when you chase this fantasy. I would rather chase my dream than live a life shadowed by others' expectations. James stood firm, equal parts terrified and exhilarated. This was uncharted territory, a potential rift in the very fabric of his existence. In the haunting quiet, Clara stepped forward beside him, every ounce of her presence shimmering with determination. Mr. Fitzgerald, she said, her voice steady though trembling with conviction, I don't intend to disrupt anything. All I want is the chance to show James a future filled with possibility not just for us but for both our families, by embracing who we truly are. His father watched her for a moment, and something seemed to shift. Maybe it was simply a flicker of surprise, but it was enough. His eyes darted back to James, searching for a hint of doubt, anything to weaken the resolve he had built. James, he said again, but this time softer, almost gentler. I only want the best for you. I fear what you don't yet see. I know what I'm risking, James replied, heart racing. But what I found in Clara is worth every risk. I don't want to waste another moment pretending to be someone I'm not. With that, an unexpected hush swept across the room, curiosity drawn as guests leaned in, absorbing the tension. There was a search of understanding in his father's eyes, and the air crackled with anticipation. Your mother, his father began, but James cut him off. Mom will always have her opinions. But this isn't about her understanding. It's about me. His father's expression tightened again. And if you were to go through heartache? James ran a hand through his hair, emotions spilling over. Then I will deal with that, just like anyone else. But I refuse to hide away from life's complexities, especially when it includes love. With a long exhale, the tension deflated the air between them, and James felt a warmth in the silence that followed, a sense of potential, a shift in the atmosphere that seemed to encourage him toward acceptance. Accepting your choice, his father replied, measuring each word, is something I am trying to understand. And that takes time. Time. It was a concept both comforting and terrifying. Then let us take it, James said, a quick glance at Clara reassuring him when he had needed it most. We'll navigate this together. In that moment, there was a quiet tension, but something like acknowledgement passed between father and son. He knew this wasn't the end, it was merely the beginning of a conversation they would need to have many times. There was much to overcome, yet the groundwork for understanding had been laid. With a gentle squeeze of Clara's hand, James turned to the crowd returning to their merriment behind him. His heart swelled as he realized their journey, though daunting, had begun on the right foot. Problems remained, yet he knew they could face them together. As they stepped back into the warmth of laughter and celebration, the best revelation washed over him, a feeling of belonging, of triumph. Even amid uncertainty, they were undeniably stepping into a future they were crafting for themselves. The echoes of love resonated within him. And amid the clinking glasses and joyous cheers, James felt a ripple of hope dance through the air. Life was messy and unpredictable, but it was finally and unmistakably his. You need to subscribe now to see how this incredible journey unfolds. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support more stories like this. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.